Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym Podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2225. The topic is training, and the title is Client Program Review, Powerlifting. So we're going to look at one of my powerlifting clients today. The idea of sharing the workout program is to share all the concepts and the thoughts behind making that I can fit into about 20-30 minutes. And then hopefully there's some good tidbits in there if you have powerlifting-based training or strength-based training for yourself or clients that you might be coaching. So over half of my current clients are personal trainers. So we get to play with a lot of fun concepts in their programming. And I enjoy conversations in our weekly check-ins. And then I hope that doing podcasts like this will be helpful, not only to help understand your own training, but also to help write better programming for others. So this client, we've been working together for about a year and a half. We first started, they had to cut weight while aiming to get stronger they had just competed in a meet. And it was a pretty rough weight cut. They wanted to get down to the 242 class being more of a natural weight for them, but also improve by their next meet, which I believe was like 4 to 6 months away. So we were able to do that. It went really well. So they decided to keep working together. So it's now been a year and a half, and we're having a lot of fun. So they have solidified 242 as a natural weight now, and our goal is to build muscle, lose fat, and fill out more of that weight class. So that way, if they're allowed to be 242, as much of their 242 pounds is useful and helpful. That would be the idea. So I wanted to go through their program. We're about 6 to 8 weeks away from a powerlifting meet. So this is actually our program transitioning out of like off-season variations to squat, bench, deadlift, and trying to fine-tune the competition style lifts so that way we can start to ramp up our weights and have the CNS ready, have the technique dialed in. Now in the off-season, we would have used variations of squat, bench, and deadlift that were different than competition specific lift. So a competition lift might be low bar for this client. Well, maybe in the off-season, we wanted to work more on just lower body development. We wanted to take away some of the thoracic bracing, like the upper back control, some of the lower back control as well. We wanted to reduce some of that stimulus and just focus more on legs. We might do a camber bar squat. So that reduces thoracic pressure, reduces lower back, like spinal erector pressure, and just really overloads the legs. However, let's say we wanted to work on thoracic bracing and keeping a more upright torso and fighting against the bar, kind of rounding their shoulders forward. Maybe we'd do a safety squat bar. And that then would create that higher bar point, like balance point where the bar rests on your body. It's going to extend the basic lever arm from their hip to where the bar is. It's going to make it harder for them to maintain thoracic positioning squatting with a safety squat bar compared to a camber squat bar. So the off season, we use variations to target components of the whole technique. And that way we can still develop all of the muscles, but hyper-emphasize into one cue or one muscle group or one aspect of the squat, bench, or deadlift that we want to improve. So this program, we're going back to the regular lifts. So I want to go ahead and read through it. So all my clients' programming, there's a first page, which is like an informational page where it talks about per exercise warm-ups, rest times, defines some of the terminology within the program, such as like what is a circuit. And then we have how do I select the right weights, how do I make weekly progressions, and then directions on how to submit videos, because I do weekly video reviews for all of my clients. So they have kind of directions on how to submit those to me. That's all on the first page with each little paragraph. There's also a podcast paired with it so they can learn more. So I really like that. I think that's good, even for the advanced clients. It's good to just see that, double check on that every now and then. And then if I ever want to emphasize something, I can say, hey, if you remember on that first page, check out this section. Let's work on this a little bit more. So it gives me a nice, quick, easy reference. And then at the bottom of that first page, I have what gym they go to or what equipment they have, because all the programming is specific to their equipment availability. Now, this client, we are rearranging some of their training because they had a shift in their job. Their job has different work from home and work at work days. So we had to shift some things around, and this will be our first program with that shift. So you'll hear me mentioning that in what I wrote to the client. So Monday, we're going to be starting with Monday. We're actually going to be doing squats and deadlifts on a Monday. Woof. It works best for this client. They actually prefer it. They like it. One of the aspects I like about it is, for this client, their weekend, Saturday and Sunday, is less stressful than during the week. So they're going to be experiencing the most nervous system recovery, the most ability to increase sleep, increase food, and prepare their body and mind over the weekend. So we want to, come in right on Monday and use that. If we were to wait till Wednesday or wait till Friday, they might be okay strength-wise if they're running off of adrenaline and cortisol, but it's not going to be optimal for them nervous system-wise, recovery-wise, fuel-wise, sleep-wise, all that stuff. So we do squats and deadlifts on Monday, and we're actually doing them together now. That isn't always the case. The most common structure I would use would be having a main lift on its own. So we might do like squats on a Monday. So we'd warm up for squats, do squats, then do accessories that build our squats. We typically will set up stuff like that. However, for this client and for sometimes other clients, it works to where if we do a big lift, even if they both have to be aggressive on the same day, we just don't do any accessories outside of that. We just get in, movement prep, then do the big lifts and go home. So for this client, we have RPE instructions. Basically, in his squat and deadlift, I give him specific weights to use. On the other movements, I ask him to aim for an 8 RPE. RPE is rate of perceived exertion. That is how hard does something feel. Typically, like in our purposes, we're going to think of it as a scale of like 5 to 10. 5 is you're moving, but there's no challenge at all. It's borderline warm up. Just, like if you're walking on a treadmill at 2.5 miles an hour, you're technically moving, but there's no stress. 6, still very light stress. 7, things are going to start to burn a little bit for sure. 8 is like, okay, the muscles are definitely burning. The movement is definitely challenging, but I can do it correct. What I kind of think of it is 8 is the heaviest you could do if you were filming a video tutorial. So if you wanted to film yourself and show someone how this lift should look. So if I want to say I'm doing like bicep curls, I don't want to use just like a 5-pound dumbbell for bicep curls for a demonstration. I want to use something that looks decent. That maybe causes a little bit of muscle activation, a little bit of muscle stress, so somebody watching the video can see like what it would actually look like in a working set. So it's heavy enough that it's meaningful, but it's clean enough that you would be okay with presenting this as an exercise tutorial. This is how it should look. 9 is things are breaking down. You're starting to wobble a little bit. Technique is wavering a little. 10 is you barely survived. Maybe you didn't. So that is the RPE scale. Part of why I do weekly video reviews for my clients is it gives me a chance to see how they move and then say, hey, if you're accounting this as an 8, that's great. Or I might say, hey, this is actually lower intensity. I think we can afford to push up a little bit in weight, push up a little bit in reps, and then we'll redefine next week what an 8 is. So for them, they might have thought it was an 8, and I'm like, nah, this is more like a 6 or a 7, so let's push a little harder. The other case is they send me something and it looks like they died doing it. It looks absolutely atrocious. And I'm like, was this an 8? And they're like, yeah, I probably could have done an extra rep or 5 more pounds. I'm like, no, like that was horrible. So let's calm down. And we're going to count that as a don't do that. It's definitely not an 8. So let's bring the weight down. Let's bring the reps down. So it's a fun way for us to communicate back and forth on what an 8 RPE actually looks like. Now, I wrote a note for him. I said, since this is the first time having squats and deadlifts together, the deadlift might feel weaker than they would expect. So normally they would do the deadlift on its own day. They're going to feel much more fresh. Doing that way, even if deadlift's on a Friday and it's the end of the week and you're tired and stressed, you're probably still going to feel more fresh doing it on its own rather than right after squats. So I said to him is, if it doesn't feel quite as strong, don't worry about that. These 4 weeks, because his programs are written in 4-week increments, it's going to give him time for his CNS to adjust, and the deadlift will feel better at the next program. So our movement prep and stuff. This is different for every client. This client likes a lot of movement prep. So we do foam rolling for the adductor, the TFL, which is the outside of your thigh, and it helps with external rotation. And then the spine and like the thoracic spine, we are going to roll through that a little bit. And then the upper lat connection, if the upper lats are tight, it limits external rotation to get your hands on the bar. So I want him to roll through his upper lats to make sure our external rotation is open. Then we do a dead bug variation. We're actually doing 2 dead bugs back to back, which was me being a jerk. But he's only doing it for 2 sets. We have a dead bug where we're doing a band pull apart while alternating the extending leg. And what this does is it's a breathing, bracing movement for his core, but it also forces thoracic and shoulder stabilization and bracing. So this is going to activate, quote unquote, his core muscles to breathe and brace and not allow his spine to move, which is exactly what we have to do under a barbell for squats and picking up a barbell for deadlifts. And then having the ability to be able to extend a limb or like a leg or an arm while holding our core in place is, again, just a coordinational component that's going to help improve his postural bracing for the main lifts. We're pairing that with a dead bug foam roller pinch, which is another variation of a braced position, and then he has to alternate his limbs, but not losing that tightness of the brace. So not only is he trying to hold the brace, he's trying to actively contract the brace. So again, these are breathing bracing drills that are going to help his squat and deadlift. Keep him a lot safer, keep him a lot stronger. Then we have glute bridge march. Just 1 set, 20 reps. That's just going to help to fire off the glutes, just kind of get some blood flowing through the hips, the upper hamstring connectors, just get some things moving. Then we have side clamshell raises. That works on external rotation. It also works the internal rotation for resistance of how fast or slow you release the external rotation. So it warms up the hips in a manner in which you would have to be externally rotating under load during the squat. So it warms up those mechanics as well, and it again continues that core bracing, breathing, stabilization. Then we have the cross ball rolling on his chest muscles to again open up external rotation so that we can get under the low bar. Then we have bodyweight pulse squats to help stretch and open the adductors, get some blood flow into the groin, into the adductors, into the knees, get everything ready. And then he's pairing the cross ball rolling and the pulse squats with his first 2 sets of barbell warm-ups, so barbell squat warm-ups. So pretty good. So full routine there. The foam rolling, that shouldn't take 10 minutes. I mean, that shouldn't even take 6 minutes, really. So about 10 minutes, we'll just say. Dead bug variations, maybe 5 to 6 minutes. The glute bridge, like 1 minute. The clamshell raises, maybe another minute. So he's going to be into that warm-up circuit in under 20 minutes, getting into the barbell squats and whatnot. Now for barbell squats, I have him working up in weight load. We're doing stuff, if I had to take a big fat guess of percentages, is we're around like 75, maybe like 70 to 85%, somewhere in there within this program. I don't use percentages, as you can tell, because I don't even know what it is. But that's around where we're probably starting on like the lower end, maybe like mid 70s. We're going to be doing some sets and reps there. And then next week we're going to, go up to, like, say we're doing 75%, then next week is 77.5, next week is 80, next week is 82.5. It's kind of like that progression. So we're going heavier weight loads. So for him, we're using kilograms. So his warm-ups is the bar, which is 20 kilograms, then 70, then 100, then 120, then 150, 170, 200. So his last warm-up is 200 kilograms for three reps. Then our first working set of the first week is 220 kilograms, 1 set of 2. Then we go 240 kilograms, 1 set of 2. We do a 275 kilogram, 10-second walkout. So he's going to put 275 kilogram on the bar. He's going to unrack it, step back, and stand in position for about 10 seconds, and then walk the bar back in and rack it. And then our working set drops from 275 to 250 kilograms, and he's going to be doing 2 sets of 2. So the idea of the heavy walkout holds is it's a CNS component. Is since we haven't back squatted in a while, because we've been doing all those off-season variations, his body is going to kind of forget how heavy things are. So he can squat all these weights, but his body's going to say, man, we haven't touched this in a while. This feels really freaking heavy. That can then mess up your confidence. It can mess up your cues, and then you can lead to injury or just inefficient training. So we want to get under something heavy and remind his body, hey, this is what you used to do. Like, ramp it up. Let's go. Let's get used to this. So that's the idea of the squat walkouts at the 275 kilogram, is it gives him time to get his CNS prepped and ready, and his body's going to kind of like wake up to the heaviness of the weight loads over these 4 weeks. So the second week, we again do a walkout hold, but it goes from 275 kilograms to 280. The third week is 285, and the fourth week is 290 kilograms. So we're up over 600 pounds there. And then on the main working set, the heaviest working sets, week 1 we said was 250 kilograms for 2 sets of 2. Week 2 is 255 kilograms, 2 by 2. Then week 3 is 260 kilograms, just 2 sets of 1. And then the fourth week is 265 kilograms, 2 sets of 1. So not a lot of volume. It's funny, as I jokingly say that in the sense that he does a shit ton of volume, in that his warm-ups are 3 reps of the bar, 70 kilograms, 100 kilograms, 120, 150, 170, 200, 220, 240, and then we do 2 working sets at 250. So that's 11 sets of squats. That's actually a lot. But it's not a lot at the heaviest weight loads. At the heaviest weight loads, we're going to work on efficiency, cleanness, crispness of technique. We're not trying to bury his body. We're actually trying to let his body recover from the off-season variations and start to allow for recovery capacity, so that way we can peak his strength going into the meet. This is not the time. This is about 6 to 8 weeks away. This is not the time to bury his body. We actually want his body to be recovering. We want him to be like getting back used to the heavy weight loads. We want his confidence and his explosiveness to come back during these weeks. So that's why it is a lot of volume overall, but it's not a lot of volume at the heaviest weight loads. Then I have him do some stretches, and this also gives him time to just breathe and relax, let his adrenaline and endorphins come down a little bit, and then we'll be transitioning to deadlifts. So our stretches are basically like an adductor stretch in 2 different positions, because he's going to be very tight there. And then we have a stretch for the glute, and again a rebracing thing for the lower back and core. So this is going to make sure that his adductors aren't like super tight and his glutes aren't super tight as he goes into deadlift. So for this meet, he's doing conventional deadlifts. He has done sumo before as well, but we're doing conventional deadlifts. And for this, we're just doing 1 rep on the warm-ups. We're doing 70, 100, 130, 160, 190, 220, and 250 kilogram. And then the first week is just 260 kilograms for 3 sets of 1. We do that again in week 2. And then in week 3, we're going to be doing just 1 set of that. And then we're doing 270 kilograms for 2 singles. And then week 4, we go up to 280 kilograms for just 1 single. So he could be deadlifting 300 for sure over that at his competition. So we are under like a clean 1 rep max, but the deadlifts are a higher percentage than his squat is, but the volume is really low, just singles and just 1 to 2, maybe 3 top singles at the most at the workouts. So that is the idea of a combined squat and deadlift day. You want to make sure you do enough movement prep that you can move correctly for your squats. Hit the squats, do some good work on them. Then give yourself a chance to stretch and relax a little bit. And then when you do the deadlifts, you just want to do minimal heavy weights. Really pay attention to the cleanness and crispness of every individual warm-up set, so that way you get good technique development, but you don't do a lot of heavy weight. We're not trying to destroy the body. We're trying to refine the technique, give the body a good stimulus for the day, but not anything that exceeds its recovery capacity. Workout 2 is actually going to be on Wednesday. So he does squats and deadlift on Monday. He gets Tuesday as a break, Wednesday, we're coming back in. We're doing the bench accessories. So for this one, he's doing banded face pulls, then a Y raise to kind of warm up and get the upper body going. It helps with blood flow to the shoulders, stabilization in the shoulders, in similar ways in which he's going to have to brace and hold his upper back positioning while allowing the upper arms to move as they would need to do in the bench press. So we're trying to learn how to brace and hold in our mid and lower traps and rhomboids, but leave the other muscles open so that way he can have freedom of movement to get good, bench strength. After the banded warm-ups, we're going to do external rotation, elbow down to the side, then elbow up at 90 degrees. Again, just getting everything ready, getting everything moving, unkinking the shoulder, make sure it's all loose and ready to go. Then we're going to do a little bit of back work. I like to do back work before bench press because it helps to sensitize the back so we're more aware of what our back is doing when we bench press. So it actually helps with technique adherence and crispness. Found that across pretty much all clients that's pretty true. So we do cable lat pull downs actually behind the neck, so behind the head, and we're doing isometric. So he's pulling down and holding for 3 to 5 seconds, and then he'll release, pull back down, hold for 3 to 5 seconds. And again, he's focusing on bracing and contracting and holding in his mid, lower traps and rhomboids. We're pairing that with some hand release push-ups, just 2 sets of 20 just to get some blood flowing, gets the chest opened up, get his upper body ready to go. So he's going to be going into the bench press feeling plenty warm but not exhausted. If 2 sets of 20 push-ups exhaust you for bench press, you got some work to do. You got a lot more GPP, a lot more activity you got to be doing. So if you're afraid to do 2 sets of 20 and thinking like that's going to mess up your bench, you need to get in better shape. So he's now doing the bench press variation we're doing is actually a wide grip with a pause. I know I talked about doing more competition specific. This is pretty damn close. I mean, we're only going to move his hand about the width of 2 fingers wider than a normal bench, but everything else is the same. The reason why is in his off season, we have absolutely destroyed his triceps. I have pushed his triceps incredibly aggressively hard. So what I'm wanting to do now is to give him 4 weeks where we let the triceps catch up from that stimulus, but then focus in a little bit extra on his chest. And then after these 4 weeks, we'll go back to a normal competition grip and everything will be recovered, everything will be ready, and he'll crush it. So for that, I actually did not give him weight loads on this because I wanted him to focus more on perception and getting a chest stimulus rather than maximal weight load. So I want him to think of this almost like a bodybuilder would be flexing and squeezing their chest. I don't want him just trying to aim for a certain weight. So I told him to aim for that 8 RPE. He's doing 3 sets of 5 to 6 reps on week 1. Then 3 sets of 4 to 5 reps on week 2, 3 sets of 3 to 4 reps on week 3, then finishing with 3 sets of 2 to 3 reps. So he's going to be ranging between 2 to 6 reps across all weeks. So that's pretty heavy. It's definitely strength-based work. But with focusing on an 8 RPE and more what is the muscle doing, not just can I shove this weight around, it's going to help us get good chest development, but again, allow for that tricep push that we had in the off season to recover and actualize the strength as we would lead into the meet. Then after that, he's going to be doing dumbbell chest presses. We're going to be doing a neutral grip with our feet on the bench. So this makes it more outer pec and tricep dominant. So the triceps are going to help because his outer pec's going to be tired from the barbell work. So this is actually more of like a compound movement for the triceps. So we do want to still get a little bit of tricep stimulus for sure. We're just not doing as much as we did before. Then he's pairing that with a cable seated row with isometric holds. And again, this is just to strengthen the back. And this one is including his lats more. But we're including the back and making sure the back is strong so we can brace our positions for bench. But also the back is involved in squat and deadlift. But on squat and deadlift days, you got so many other things to focus on. It's good to put the back with the bench press. Then Friday is lower body accessories. So we already took care of the heavy technical work for squat and deadlift. So now our job is to come back later in the week and say, okay, what are the smaller little things, the small components that might be holding back our squat and our deadlift? And let's hyper-focus on those. So for this one, we actually start with a glute stretch, a quadricep stretch, and a TFL stretch. So he has hurt his TFL before. Like when we first started working together, his TFL was his tensor fasciae lata. It's the top part of like your IT band. It was flared up for him, and he had a lot of trouble externally rotating without pain. We've addressed that, and now he has no pain there. But in order to make sure it stays no pain, we always stretch that thing and make sure it's strong. Then we go into a circuit with body weight alternating hinge lunges, reverse lunges, and this is just to help stretch the glutes, stretch the hamstring, just get that glute activation type feeling, which he really likes and finds helpful because he's very quad dominant in a squat. So the more we pay attention to finding and using our glutes, the better he's able to do that when he tries to put it all together in a back squat. Then we do body weight low side-to-side lunge, and this is to open up and strengthen the adductor. And then we have body weight drop lunge with a forward lunge. So he's going to pick his knee up and then just fall forward and catch himself on his front leg in a hinged position. So this is going to help strengthen the ankle, the knee joints. It's also going to help with stability and balance. And this is, in a sense, a connective tissue developer as well. So this is going to take care of a lot of joint stabilization and health components for us specific to the ankle and the knee. Then we have a circuit, a pairing of pit shark RDLs. Pit shark is just a fancy variation of a belt squat. So belt squat RDLs, and then lumbar release GHD raises. So the RDLs, he knows this, so I'm not saying something he doesn't know, but he's going to keep his lumbar spine, his like spinal erectors, his lower back, he's going to keep that thing rock solid, held in place, core braced, just like he would for a squat and a deadlift, and he's going to be hinging by stretching through the glutes and the hamstrings. But when we do a GHD back raise, he's actually going to let his lumbar, his lower back, round and then contract, round and contract. The strength of the lumbar muscles to hold their position can be developed by forcing them to lose it, regain it, lose it, regain it, which would be muscular contractions just like any other muscle. So if I do bicep curls, I'm letting my bicep extend and then I'm contracting it. So the lumbar release GHDs is basically a release, contract for his lumbar muscles. And if we train it in that position, then when we say, hey, okay, now I don't want you to move, they can be stronger with that. So you think if you do a bunch of bicep curls, say the strongest bicep curl you can do is 20 pounds, you get strong enough to do 30, then strong enough to do 40, you could then even hold a weight in the middle of a bicep curl much heavier. Once you've gotten strong enough to curl 40-pound dumbbells compared to 20-pound dumbbells, you can then hold a weight without allowing the bicep to move much stronger at that time. So you can use contract-release movements to build isometric strength as well as just isometric movements. So since we have the isometric component stimulus in the RDL, I did the contrasting stimulus by allowing the lumbar release GHDs. Then we have hack squats, 1.5 reps to really push on the quad development and the knee connective tissue strength. Pairing that with bodyweight walking lunges. So again, the hack squats takes out the lumbar spine because we just beat the crap out of it with the RDLs and the GHDs. And it takes out a lot of the glutes. There's no hamstrings really. So it's going to be quad dominant. But that's great because it's going to release some of the stress on those other muscles. Now that we've already exhausted them, it's going to let us focus in on the quads in a safe way, and in a way that also maximizes what the quads can do, not being limited by these other supporting muscles which are now fatigued. Then the last workout is our bench accessory day. So we do one arm reverse flies, and this is now on a Saturday. One arm reverse flies, and then we do cable lateral raises just to strengthen the shoulders, make sure everything's beefy and strong. It also just looks good. So it helps with shoulder integrity and shoulder health, but also why not throw in some aesthetics when you can. And then we have lacrosse ball rolling on the chest. Again, that helps to make sure that our chest muscles aren't so tight that it's limiting our external rotation. Then our bench press, we're doing actually the competition variation on this day. So I actually did prescribe him to do some weights. So this is not the wide grip. This is our regular bench. but we're being conservative with our weight loads. And our volume. His warm-ups is just 3 reps at the bar, 60 kilogram, 80 kilogram, and 100 kilogram. And then his workout is like a warm-up set, again, at 120 kilograms. We do 150 kilogram lockout hold, and then 130 kilograms for 4 sets of 2. Then week 2 is 130 kilograms, 4 sets of 1. Week 3 is 140 kilograms, 3 sets of 1. And week 4 is 145 kilograms, just 1 set of 1. So he can definitely do that. That's not even getting to our max efforts there. And we're just doing some singles and multiple sets of singles. Again, this is just to refine the technique, let his body get used to these weight loads. We're using those lockout holds just like we do in the squat walkout holds to prep the CNS and make sure that his body's feeling ready to go when we push closer into the meet and we want to peak. Then after the bench, we're finishing with dumbbell rolling tricep extensions and chest presses with a pause at the bottom. It's a little more aggressive on that combination, but it's because we're less aggressive in the bench. We can push a little harder with the accessories. The more I would push in the bigger lift, the easier I would make the accessories. So that is his whole program. It's 4 workouts. It's written for 4 weeks. We communicate every single week. He sends me videos. I send him feedback. I would adjust the program as needed along the way. But typically, we'll run the program as is and minor adjustments. And then in 4 weeks, we'll reevaluate how he's feeling, where he's at strength-wise, recovery-wise, weight, nutrition, sleep, all that stuff. And then we would fine-tune what we want to do leading into the final weeks before the meet. So I thought that was fun. Hopefully that was enjoyable to hear why I write it the way I write it, what we focus on, and maybe there's some elements in there that you can use in your programming. If you would like help with programming and you want to make some one-on-one awesome programming that's perfect for you, just like I did with this client, you can sign up for our one-on-one coaching service where I do nutrition and training programming as well as weekly video reviews, weekly nutrition reviews. We also do weekly Q&A that's private, just me and you. So I do it with all my individual clients. It's everything you need. It's designed to be anything and everything you need. I'll do it so that way you can be your best. If you want to learn more about that, you can email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com, or you can go to our website and learn more about it at www.brutalirongym.com. Awesome. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. If you like the podcast, you can donate on the website to support the podcast, or you can go to Nutricost.com, use the code BrutalIron10 to buy your supplements. You get a 10% discount, and it gives a 10% commission to us for everything you spend. If you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.